You've heard it before, right? One of Bob Proctor's most famous quotes is, "Thoughts become things. If you see it in your mind, you will hold it in your hand." It's how a lot of us were first introduced to manifestation through Rhonda Byrne's The Secret. Yeah, you know that movie. So we sat there visualizing cupcake, and nothing happens, right? And we acted as if and spent more money than we possibly should have, thinking that it'll magically just reappear in our bank accounts. But again, it didn't, right? Apart from that one time where a coach I was working with told me to literally burn £100 to prove my detachment from money. And that actually did magically appear. But it's not the norm, so I'm really not encouraging anybody to do that. The point is, for me at least, conscious manifestation only worked when I understood why it worked. So I was able to go from magical thinking, that can often be a little problematic, to moving into the state that really does create the peaceful and prosperous life that I know we would all rather live. And it essentially boils down to working on three areas. That's your beliefs, your consciousness, and your nervous system. When I work on each of these areas with my private clients and in the Habits for Happiness mentorship program, we go really deeply into them. But if you would rather self-study, then those are the three areas that I recommend that you master. In this video, we're going to focus on the first of that trio, which is how your beliefs have wired your brain to live in a certain way, and what you can do to change that wiring so you get to live the prosperous and peaceful life I promise you deserve. Hi, I'm Janet Mohapi-Banks. I'm a best-selling author for my book, The Habits for Happiness, and I'm a transformational happiness coach for high achievers and soul seekers who wake up feeling empty despite their outward success. If you would like a taste of how my work can help you too, I invite you to join me in my free 14-day mini course, Rewire Your Brain for Happiness. You'll find the link in the description. Okay, so I want you to think about the predominant thoughts that you have, yeah? Are they based in lack or in abundance? Are they based in fear or in purpose? If something bad happens, do you spiral into catastrophizing, or do you just take it all in your stride and view it as being one step closer to actually getting what you want? So now let me ask you this. Have you ever tried to just change the thoughts, yeah? Have you tried to convince yourself that the opposite of what you're thinking is true, but it's just left you feeling worse than you did before because now you've also got that feeling that you're just lying to yourself, yeah? Doing that isn't going to work for you because you're too smart and you're not going to be gaslit even by yourself. So for you, what needs to happen is changing your beliefs, because it's your beliefs that create the thoughts in the first place. So if you change your beliefs, you'll have different thoughts that align with the life that you actually want to create. Now, psychology helps us to understand where our beliefs came from so we can see situations through a different lens and assess whether or not we want to release those beliefs or keep them, right? You see, those beliefs are created by thinking the same thing over and over again. It's how we learned what's acceptable in the society we live in and what's not, and what makes good things good and bad things bad. But really, all of our beliefs are just decisions that we've made based on the experiences that we've had. This is how you learn to believe that you had to work really hard to achieve anything in life, and that you didn't deserve to rest until you've done everything that needed to be done. Now, neurologically speaking, our brains are wired for prediction. They're constantly scanning the past to anticipate future outcomes, which in turn determines our behavior. Yeah? It's part of what governs what makes us feel safe and what feels dangerous to us. Which is why, even when we want to rest, we feel anxious doing it if we've learned that we're always supposed to be busy producing something in order to be valuable. So if we want to avoid burnout or bring more peace and fulfillment into our lives, we get to choose which beliefs and therefore which thoughts serve the future that we want, instead of the default programming, which will create a future that must repeat our past, whether it's a past we actually want to repeat or not. But here's the thing. Because all of your beliefs are just thoughts that you decided were true, you get to make different decisions about them. So if you're done working yourself to burn out because it doesn't feel like a badge of honor anymore, you get to rewire the belief that says you have to. You get to decide that you can rest just because you want to. And you get to decide that you're worthy and valuable without even having to prove yourself at all. And by making those decisions, you naturally change your thoughts about what makes you successful and worthy of having everything that you want. So, how do you change your beliefs? That's literally the million-dollar question, right? Please forgive the interruption. I was wondering if you could do me a massive favor. As you've got this far in the video, please could you give it a like and leave a purple heart in the comments to help teach the algorithm who to show this work to. I think it's a bit confused right now, so I really appreciate you doing that. Thanks again. I'll take you back to your video now. Well, what I have found to be true is that the first step is to work out what your beliefs are. They're sometimes so ingrained that we don't even recognize them anymore, yeah? And the key to identifying the beliefs that drive us are by becoming really aware of the thoughts that we have. So practice observing your thoughts. Really know what you're thinking from a detached and non-judgmental perspective. Notice that thought that says you should be working harder or that you're not as far along as you should be. Then just get curious. Ask yourself where you first heard that messaging. Who was it that said that to you? What I almost guarantee you'll find is that these messages came from people that you trusted, people that you loved, and probably people in authority, a parent, a guardian, a teacher, or maybe a religious leader. And the thing is, they were telling you that to look after you. They were passing on what they knew about building success or surviving in the hard world that they grew up in. And it doesn't make them wrong or bad for teaching you those lessons. They were working with what they knew at the time. But if you're waking up in a different world than they did, which you are, then maybe you don't have to accept those lessons as truth anymore. Yeah? You needed to accept them when you were a kid because you were a kid and they were the people looking after you. But you're grown up now and you have authority in your own life. So, once we know where these messages came from and why, we can then look at whether what you were taught is objectively true. Is it objectively true that nobody on the planet has ever had material or financial success without working really, really, really hard for it? Of course not, right? There are plenty of people born into wealth who receive money and homes and businesses and even entire empires without ever having to work hard, push, or prove themselves. This means that you can't be rich or successful unless you work hard is not an objectively true belief. In fact, a more true statement would be some people have incredible wealth just because they were born, just because they exist. And as that statement is verifiably true, you get to decide that if it's true for one person, then it's true for you too. So now you get to find evidence that you can receive what you want without burning yourself out in the process. Yeah? Investigate all the ways that you're successful or that you've received money, love, or whatever it is that you want without having to work really hard for it. Maybe you've received gifts or found money in the street. Maybe you've won a raffle or received praise or compliments without fishing for them. So find all the evidence for your new belief that you can find to help that belief sink into your subconscious. You can write your new beliefs out on post-it notes and stick them to your bathroom mirror so you get regular reminders every day. Like I said, the way your beliefs became beliefs is because they were thoughts that you thought over and over and over again. Now, what happens within your brain is that repeated thoughts strengthen neural pathways. It's a process known as long-term potentiation. This is the foundation of neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience, focus, and repetition. Each time you think a thought, neurons fire in a specific order, and the more often they fire together, the stronger their connection becomes. This is where the phrase neurons that fire together, wire together comes from, which I'm sure you've also heard of, yeah? Over time, those well-worn neural pathways become your default responses, yeah? So your beliefs. Your default mode network, your DMN, plays a key role here because it governs identity, self-reflection, and internal narratives. So the thoughts you repeatedly think about yourself, the world, and your future don't just shape how you feel in the moment, they shape your self-concept at the neurological level. Eventually, what started as just a thought becomes encoded as truth in your brain, not because it's actually true, but because it's been rehearsed so often that your brain treats it as reality. And the good news is that just as your brain was wired to believe those old stories, it can be rewired to believe new ones. So the way to reprogram your beliefs is by thinking different thoughts over and over again, but from a place of understanding the belief beneath them and not just doing it in a really superficial way. Yeah. This is the kind of work that we do inside my free school community, Manifesting Your Happiest Life, and you'll find the link to join in the description. Inside that community, you'll also find the free 14-day mini course, Rewire Your Brain for Happiness. It honestly is the perfect place to start. Now, if you want to learn more about beliefs that create our lives, I recommend watching this video next, as it'll go into the 4 areas of belief that create the whole belief system. I hope to see you in my community, and if I don't, well, just know that you've got this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.